Chapter 271. I see, Wilbur scoffed. He finally found out the Blood Lake's secret with the help of his Iris Veritas. Wilbur let out a cry and the Thunder Cleaver flew out of his grasp as he used his spirit energy to launch the cleaver into a powerful attack against the Blood Wolves. The seals between his palms shifted and morphed. At last, he put both palms to his chest and chanted, "Holy wave of thunder!" All that could be seen was a huge dark cloud condensing above the Blood Lake and beginning to shower the Blood Lake with countless bolts of lightning. However, under the pressure of Sulin's Sea of Blood territory, the holy wave of thunder was not very powerful. Wilbur scoffed. The dragon's crystal in him spun faster, and more spirit energy surged out from him. With the support of the dragon's crystal, the holy wave of thunder grew in size, looming over the Blood Lake completely. Thick bolts of lightning struck the Blood Lake, and the surface of the lake began to bubble as it evaporated. This time, Sulin was finally enraged. She let out a feral howl, exploding with spirit energy as she grew to stand at around 10 meters. The spirit flame on her body burned brightly as ever as she stormed over to Wilbur like an actual giant. Wilbur did not even bother turning around. Do whatever it takes to hold her back. The key to beating her is right in this lake. Constantine cried out loudly. The halo above him doubled in size and prayers filled the entire canyon as the holy light around him turned into holy flames. Constantine was standing among the holy flames like an angel, solemn and sacred. There was a flame between his palms as well, burning so brightly it threatened to destroy everything as he hurled attack after attack towards Sulin. Eileen gritted her teeth as well. A spirit flame around a meter tall rose up around her as her infernal blades doubled in power. 1,000 swords turned into 10,000 this time, firmly holding Sulin down as they swung at her mercilessly. The enraged Sulin whipped her blood sword around, deflecting every one of Eileen's swords that came her way while she continued making her way toward Wilbur, dragging Eileen's barrier along. Her blood shields increased in size as well, letting out shriek-like howls as the skeleton swimming on the shield's surface struggled to leave the shield. The blood shields firmly surrounded Sulin, blocking off Constantine's holy flames. The two of them seemed to be using all of their strength but were only able to slow Sulin down, unable to completely stop her. The entire canyon was brimming with rampant spirit energy, clashing and letting out deafening sounds as the air constricted and morphed into whipping whirlwinds. Anyone who was below a sanctuary-level cultivator would not be able to survive being there at all. That was what made these cultivators so terrifyingly powerful. Sulin was on her last nerve, her rage overtaking her completely. Despite that, she was more than capable of withstanding Eileen and Constantine's attacks. She even managed to continue moving forward under the restriction of Eileen's barrier. Yet Constantine and Eileen were both sanctuary-level elites. They were not that easy to deal with. Sulin took quite a while to get to Wilbur. Just then, all of Wilbur's focus was on maximizing the power of the holy wave of thunder. His dragon crystal spun furiously inside of him, channeling shocking amounts of spirit energy. The canyon boomed thunderously with lightning bolts so bright that it was almost blinding. Under the relentless attack, the Blood Lake began to evaporate at a speed that was finally visible to the naked eye. Sulin howled and shrieked, but she was still moving too slowly due to Eileen and Constantine's efforts to hold her back. Just then, Wilbur let out a cry as the dragon on his back glowed once again. Chapter 272. All at once, the lightning bolts coming from the holy wave of thunder turned red as the power of the lightning strikes grew in power. The lightning bolts struck the Blood Lake mercilessly, making the blood in it boil and evaporate. Within just a few minutes, the lake had dried up. Sulin let out an agonized cry, her gigantic figure beginning to shrink as her power waned. Just then, Eileen roared sharply as 10,000 swords soared through the air and pierced right through Sulin. Sulin whipped her sword around, trying to deflect Eileen's attacks, but a good number of Eileen's swords still pierced through Sulin's body. At the same time, Constantine's holy flame seared a huge hole in her waist. Sulin swayed as she collapsed, her body shrinking quickly. She finally looked like a human being, lying on the ground unmoving. The sea of blood's barrier disappeared as Eileen and Constantine heaved a sigh of relief. They turned around and walked up to Wilbur. The three of them looked at the dried-up blood lake. The fist-sized blood embryo lay at the bottom of the lake silently, still radiating a bone-chilling spirit energy. Is that the blood embryo? Eileen's chest heaved as she gasped for air. The battle earlier had drained her quite a bit. Sweat beaded on Constantine's forehead as he nodded. That's right. Don't even think about it. The egg's mine, Wilbur said emotionlessly. Eileen scoffed. What right do you have to say that? The Kiwanis Club and the Bloodism Church are sworn enemies, and we need to take everything of theirs back for research. This is an evil item, and the Church of Holy Illuminati has reinforced that all items of evil shall be taken back to be cleansed, Constantine said. Wilbur glanced at both of them. I said it's mine. Don't make this hard for yourselves. Eileen frowned. She took 2 steps back and her armor's barrier kicked into motion again. Constantine began to glow with holy light as well. Both of them seemed determined to win. Wilbur let out a laugh. Are you really going to fight me for it? I have to take it, Eileen said. Constantine said, something like this cannot remain in the world. It must be taken back and thoroughly cleansed, then destroyed. Do you think you'd be a match for me? Wilbur said calmly. Eileen said, you used up a great deal of energy just now. I doubt you'd be able to take me down. The holy light is limitless, Constantine said firmly as well. Wilbur nodded silently, smiling at Constantine. You're not wrong there. I know just how powerful the Church of Holy Illuminati is. But listen up. You're in Dasha right now, not the homeland of your church. Wilbur's expression turned cold, and he stared coldly at Constantine. Constantine stopped short, his expression darkening. Yet just then, Eileen cut in with a chuckle. So what if we're in Dasha? I'm a Dasha local too. The Kiwanis Club is full of experts, you know. Have you forgotten who I am? Wilbur took his Department of Paranormal Research and Defense license out, waving it in front of the other two. I could just call for backup, and missiles will rain down upon this place in minutes. Are you sure you want to do this? Constantine's expression shifted. It was clear he knew just how powerful the department was. Yet he still said, do you think missiles would be able to kill me? That's hilarious. We could give it a try, Wilbur said with a smile. Constantine's expression was ashen, but he said nothing. Wilbur turned to Eileen with a smile. You may be from Dasha, but the Kiwanis Club is merely a non-profit organization. I'm part of the government. Remember that. Chapter 273. Eileen's expression darkened as well. Yet she gathered herself quickly enough, flashing a smile. I was just joking. Come on. I don't even really care about stuff like this. You can have it if you want. Constantine sneered coldly, turning around. Wilbur barked out a laugh. He leaped into the lake and scooped up the blood embryo, then tossed it into his demiplane before returning to shore. The three of them then walked up to Sulin. Sulin had returned to her original form, a slender woman with stunning features. Her face was pale, however, and wounds littered her body. She was on her last breath. She's still alive? Eileen exclaimed. Constantine sighed. She won't be for much longer. Just then, Sulin looked at the three of them as she flashed a pained laugh. I'm finally free. Thank you. She closed her eyes after that, taking her last breath. Wilbur frowned at Sulin's corpse wordlessly. Eileen said, the skull cult's finally ended, and the remaining gangs under them won't really be a problem. I'll be on my way then. Have a good day. She turned to leave after that. Constantine put his palms together. An array of holy light enveloped Sulin's body. She was cleansed just like that, disappearing without a trace. Wilbur glanced at the shackles on Constantine's wrists in confusion. What do you have those things on for? These are the cuffs of faith. They were made just for me to strengthen my faith, Constantine said. Wilbur raised his brows. Are you telling me you're a better believer just because you have these things on? Constantine did not answer him, and so Wilbur continued to ask, you're an ascetic? I'm a wandering cultivator, Constantine said. Wilbur was confused. I thought you were a cardinal of the Church of Holy Illuminati. I was expelled from the church by the Pope. Why did you say you were a cardinal then? Wilbur asked, shocked. Constantine shrugged. The Pope expelled me, but he did not strip me of my title and powers as cardinal. I might not be able to return to the church, but I'm still a member of the Holy Illuminati. Why is that? Wilbur asked. Constantine sighed. The Pope and I have some differing values. And so, damn, you're a tough one too. Wilbur could not help but marvel. The Church of Holy Illuminati was the biggest religion in the entire world, and the Pope could be said to hold terrifying power. Constantine was a great example of just how powerful the church was. He was definitely something else, able to hold differing opinions with the Pope on faith and still be able to leave the church alive. Not like that was any of Wilbur's business. All right. Then safe travels from here. Goodbye. Wilbur turned to leave after that. Constantine stood there for a while, before sighing and leaving as well. Ryder sat in the passenger seat on the way back. I'm sorry I wasn't able to help during the battle, Deacon Penn. It's fine. Everything would have turned out the same anyway, Wilbur said. Ryder frowned. Are you sure Sulin Onyx is dead? She was torched to ashes under the holy light of the Church of Holy Illuminati. I doubt she'd be able to come back to life. That's good. Will you be writing the report, or should I? We have to write a report. Wilbur almost drove the car into a ditch. Of course. And it has to be extremely detailed. We'll be rewarded with some funds after that for doing a good job. All right, fine. I told you everything that happened, right? Just write the report based on that. I'll take a look at it when you're done. Yes, sir. Chapter 274. The sun was almost out by the time Wilbur and Ryder made it back to Sea Lake Island. Wilbur took out the strong-will pill and swallowed it. The pill was good for strengthening his body so that he would not be overwhelmed by using too much energy and collapsing. Ryder went to his office and sat down in front of his computer. He opened a new document and began typing away. Not long after that, a report was typed up with its contents as follows. Sanctuary level. Possesses an enormous amount of spirit energy. Thunder-centered powers. Has some form of reddish special energy. Type unknown. He sent the report out, waiting until it was delivered before deleting the record. He then opened up another file and began to report on the Skull Cult incident. Over at a random hotel, Eileen took a shower and lay on the bed in her bathrobe. She took her phone out, flipping to a hidden photo album where she pulled up a picture of a man and a woman in their 30s. The man looked rather normal, and even a little simple. The woman, however, was positively breathtaking. The two of them were holding each other closely, their expressions brimming with joy. It really looks like him. Could it be? Eileen frowned, mumbling to herself. She got up, pacing back and forth in the room deep in thought. All I have are two measly photos. How am I supposed to be sure? They both have the same last name and would be around the same age. Could it be merely a coincidence? Eileen's expression flashed with worry and doubt. Sometime later, she let out a sigh. Whatever. I'll go to sleep first. She took off her bathrobe, revealing her perfect figure before ducking into her covers completely bare and falling asleep. Wilbur slept all the way till past 3 in the afternoon. He stretched his limbs out. The energy from the strong-will pill and the night's sleep made him feel well rested, showing no signs of fatigue from the battle. He got ready and went to the living room to make a call. Hello, Beverly Torres, your personal handler speaking. How can I help you with today? The sweet voice made Wilbur feel pleasant, and he said lazily, Beverly, help me look up the Kiwanis Club, especially one of the members, Eileen Fall. All right. Please hold on while I search the database. About 10 seconds later, Beverly piped up again, Deacon Penn. According to my search results, the Kiwanis Club was formed 48 years ago. They are a legal nonprofit organization, with the core goal of helping those in need. The organization was founded by a mentored couple, Samuel Penn and Jennifer Penn. Is there more information than that? Seems pretty surface level, Wilbur said. Yes. According to the information we have, the real goal of the Kiwanis Club was actually to take down a certain force. Their members consist of many experts, especially Samuel and Jennifer Penn. They are incredibly powerful. How powerful? Above sanctuary level. How are they doing now? 20 years ago, they disappeared mysteriously in the middle of something and never appeared again. How's the club doing then? The Kiwanis Club is currently led by an elder, with 5 elders taking turns every 3 years. What about Eileen Fall? Eileen Fall is 32 years old. She's a sanctuary-level cultivator who joined the Kiwanis Club 10 years ago. She's very powerful. Is that all? Yes. The Kiwanis Club would be considered a business chamber right now. Although they may look like businessmen, many of their members are elite cultivators going on secret missions all the time. The Department of Paranormal Research and Defense has not taken action against them as they are not much of a threat to the country. All right then. Thank you, Beverly. Don't mention it. Oh, right. Wilbur thought of something just as he was about to hang up. Help me look up this member from the Church of Holy Illuminati, Constantine. What's his deal? Got it. Please hold on. A brief moment later, Beverly said, Found it. Chapter 275. Constantine, Cardinal of the Church of Holy Illuminati, got into an argument with the higher-ups of the church 5 years ago and was even said to have battled fiercely against the judges sentencing him. He was expelled from the church by the Pope, but not stripped of his title and powers as cardinal. He's been wandering the world after that and entered Dasha 2 years ago. He was allowed to enter the country? Of course, the Church of Holy Illuminati is a legal organization, and their members' identities are all legal as well. Constantine is a sanctuary-level cultivator, and we kept tabs on him at first. But nothing out of the ordinary really happened, and he's even been helping to heal and save people in impoverished neighborhoods. We stopped eyeing him after that. Ah, I see. All right. Thank you, Beverly. It's just my duty, sir. Bye. Goodbye. I look forward to speaking to you again. Wilbur hung up the call, falling deep into thought. Neither of those two were ordinary, and both of them were so mysterious that even the department did not have much information on them. However, they did not seem like much of a threat to him right now, thus there was no point in paying them too much attention. Just then, Ryder came over with the report. Wilbur glanced at it. Everything was written very well with extreme detail, excluding the part about the blood embryo that Wilbur had left out. Wilbur said, That's very detailed. Hand it in then. Ryder bowed and turned to leave. Wilbur returned to his room and entered his demoplane. The blood embryo was lying on the ground, beating slowly like a heart. There was an immense energy in the blood embryo, but Wilbur was not the slightest bit interested as he tossed it right into the dragon's altar. As the ancient aura descended, the blood embryo let out a whining howl akin to a baby. It was quickly turned into grace points after that, appearing in the golden hourglass. Anything, regardless of how powerful it was, would be turned to grace points at the dragon's altar. The blood embryo got Wilbur 500 grace points. He was overjoyed. It had been a while since he had gotten so many grace points. Rubbing his hands together, Wilbur perused his options. The screen lit up with many things that he could trade in for. The first thing that caught Wilbur's attention was called the Dragon Safe Haven. It allowed the cultivator who summoned it 1 minute of immunity from all danger and harm and could be used once each day. Wilbur's jaw dropped open. Immunity from all danger and harm? It might just last for 1 minute, but it was still mind-blowing. That could save his life one day. Having that would be the same as having an extra life. Why would he not take it? Yet upon taking a closer look, he saw that it cost 530 grace points. He had just enough points, combined with those left from last time. Wilbur's expression darkened at once. He had wanted to get Faye a marrow cleansing pill so that she would be able to become a cultivator, but he would not have any grace points left if he were to take the dragon's safe haven. What a sly fox this old dragon was, tempting Wilbur with all kinds of mind-blowing powers so that he would constantly feed him contributions in exchange for grace points. Motherfucker, Wilbur cursed, but he still ended up choosing the dragon's safe haven. Faye's marrow cleansing pill would have to wait. There was no rush anyway. However, Wilbur was going to have to put in the work to look for contributions in exchange for grace points if he was going to make Faye a cultivator. That wretched dragon. A new spell in dragon speak appeared in Wilbur's spirit after he traded the grace points. Wilbur sighed, leaving the dragon's altar and returning to his room to begin meditating. Chapter 276. Over in the west, on some abandoned plain, was a desert without a person in sight within a 1,000-kilometer radius. Yet in the middle of this desert was a terrifying place. It was the skeleton fields, formed by countless skeletons. In the middle of the skeleton fields was a throne made of skulls. A tall figure sat on the skull throne, hunched over one of the throne's armrests as if he were half asleep. The figure was wearing a red cloak, his face hidden in the hood of the cloak, so it was hard to see his face. He seemed to have fused with the skull throne and the skeleton fields for an unknown period of time. Not long after, an elder in gray robes walked up to the skull throne with the help of a cane forged out of bones, and then got to his knees. "Oh, mighty blood god! The evolution of the seventh blood embryo has failed and disappeared." The man on the skull throne did not move. A low and dull voice rang through the air. "Is that so? I guess no one is powerful enough yet for the power of the blood embryo." The elder in the gray robe sighed. "That's right. Silin Onyx had such a pure soul, and even she was unable to absorb it. It's going to be hard for us to find someone else for this. We can take our time. There's no hurry. We've waited for so long. What's a bit more?" The man on the throne said. "Yes, mighty blood god. Also, have the apostle of the seventh embryo make a trip to Dasha, find out everything that happened, and how the blood embryo disappeared." "Yes, mighty blood god." The man on the throne waved a hand, and the entire desert seemed to move along with it. The elder in gray bowed before getting up to leave. All that was left was the blood god, remaining there with the skeleton fields, completely unmoving. Over on Sea Lake Island, Farron and Elsa came to Wilbur's room, their arms filled with takeout bags and liquor bottles. Wilbur came out of his room, glancing at the both of them. "What's this? Let's have a drink. We haven't done that in a while. You're free tonight, aren't you?" Farron grinned at Wilbur. Wilbur shook his head, and the three of them sat down in the living room to lay out the food. Just then, Wilbur took out a marrow cleansing pill and handed it to Elsa. "Take this. I'll channel spirit energy into your body, and you'll be able to begin cultivating." "Thanks, dude." Elsa was overjoyed, swallowing the pill at once. Wilbur did as he had mentioned and completed the first step of cultivation not long after. He then told Elsa to meditate for the next few days and she would be done. Elsa got to her feet. "Thank you so much, Wilbur. I'll get to it now." She turned to leave right after. Farron stared after her. "Aren't you drinking with us?" "Do I look like I have the time to be doing that?" Elsa headed right to her room. Farron cursed after her, but Wilbur chuckled. "What's up with the both of you? We'll drink if she doesn't want to." Farron fumed as he poured himself and Wilbur a glass, the two of them taking a long swig. A few drinks later, Farron said, "Cape's having a concert with all these big celebrities right now. Wanna go have a look?" "What concert is this?" Wilbur asked, annoyed. Farron smiled. "Willow Corp has officially changed its name to Cape Mall, and a few celebrities are coming to celebrate the relaunch of the place. One of them is Sammy Chandon, a pop star." "Ah, I'm not interested," Wilbur said. Farron said, "I knew that. That's why I came looking for you to have a drink." Just then, Wilbur's phone rang with a call from Faye, who sounded rather nervous when she said, "Wilbur, there's trouble at the concert. Can you please come over?" Chapter 277. Wilbur frowned. "What's the matter?" "Some people have had too much to drink, and they're about to start a fight," Faye responded. "I'll be right there." Wilbur set down his glass and got up to leave. Farron hurried to follow behind him. The both of them got into the same car and drove straight to the stadium. The concert was on a smaller scale. It was held just to promote Cape International's new commercial district project. Despite that, there were still thousands in the crowd. There would be trouble if anything happened. Wilbur and Farron rushed to the stadium and were led backstage upon confirming their identities. Faye was seen speaking to a pretty lady. Farron pointed at the lady. "That's Sammy Chandon." Wilbur nodded. He came up to the stage, glancing out at the crowd. All he could see was the audience overwhelmed with emotion, yelling for a refund. The security guards were doing their best to maintain order, but there were several thousand people in the audience causing a ruckus that 180 guards could hardly handle. Faye spotted Wilbur and ran over. "What are we gonna do?" "Have the special forces handle this. Security's not going to cut it," Wilbur said. Faye said, "I've given them a call. They're on their way. How did this happen? Wilbur asked. Faye seemed less anxious now that Wilbur was here, and she took a breath before saying, "This guy, Barry Lance, claimed to be a superfan of Sammy Shandon and had a bit too much to drink. He was making perverted gestures toward her from the front row, and Sammy stopped her performance. That's why the crowd's demanding a refund." "Can't they just kick him out?" Wilbur asked. Faye sighed. "Apparently, Barry is a person with a bit of power. He's got more than 10 bodyguards around him, so security can't get to him at all. In the end, I had to get Jose to hold him down. They're all in the VIP lounge right now." Wilbur fell into thought upon hearing this. The concert had been held to promote Cape International, and it would all go to waste if it ended in shambles. More than that, it might even be a stain on Cape's reputation and be used against them. This had to be dealt with well. A while later, Wilbur slowly said, "Tell Jose to hold him down and get physical if the guy refuses to cooperate. Sammy can keep performing. Special forces will show up and sober the guy up. I doubt he'd dare to go against them. If that still doesn't work, then I'll do something about it." Who in Town dared to mess with Wilbur? Faye nodded at once, and the plan was set in action. A few phone calls later, Faye returned backstage to talk to Sammy. Soon after, a team of officers arrived and entered the VIP lounge at once. Wilbur recognized the leader. He was an officer working under Elsa. Wilbur followed the officers to the lounge as well, but he did not enter. He just wanted to see if he recognized Barry. Barry was still in a heated argument with Jose, shouting at Jose that he would have Jose's head if they were in Toneville now. Jose was following Faye's orders to not cause a scene, watching over Barry with gritted teeth and making sure he could not go out to cause their trouble. Jose had clearly shown Barry a thing or two, and Barry did not dare to ask his bodyguards to get physical with Jose because of that. The officers entered the lounge, and the leader said to Barry and his men at once, "What the fuck do you think you're doing starting trouble just because you've had too much to drink?" "Watch your attitude," Barry retorted. The leader sneered. "This is the only attitude you'll see. Deal with it. You're all coming back with me to the station for being a public nuisance." Barry was clearly shocked at the officers springing into action so quickly and sobered up quite a bit. He fumed. "You'd be dead if we were in Toneville." "What did you just say?" The leader looked coldly at him. Barry scoffed. "I'm sober now and don't need your help. I'm going back to Toneville." He turned away with his men, preparing to head outside. The leader called out at once, "Trying to leave after causing trouble?" Chapter 278. "What? Are you really going to arrest me? I'm warning you. Don't mess with the Lances." Barry was holding his ground as well. Just then, Jose whispered into the leader's ear, "Just make sure he leaves. Miss Eve doesn't wish for more trouble to come out of something minor like this." The leader nodded and said to Barry, "I'll walk you out, but I won't be as kind if you cause any more trouble." Barry scoffed, then turned to leave. The leader followed closely behind him until they were out of the stadium. Wilbur snorted. Some people really thought that they could do whatever they wanted just because they had a bit of money. Jose came out of the lounge, hurrying to bow to Wilbur. Wilbur patted him on the shoulder. "Not bad." "It's my duty to do so," Jose said at once. Wilbur smiled and went backstage with Jose. Just then, Sammy had finally agreed to return to the stage after Faye had spoken to her. The music started, and Sammy took the stage in a stunning outfit. The crowd erupted with cheers, and the concert was back on track. Farron smiled. "Sammy really is beautiful. Do you want to ask if she can spend the night with you?" Wilbur snickered. Farron's expression darkened. "What are you trying to imply, bro? I'm calling my lawyers." "You rich boys love pulling that card, don't you?" Wilbur teased. Farron sighed. "Yeah, right. That's if my dad doesn't kill me first." Just then, Faye walked over. "What are you guys talking about?" "Nothing, we're just making small talk," Wilbur hurried to say. Faye let out a sigh. "I didn't expect that hairy guy to be such a pain. We almost got into so much trouble." "It seems like he likes Sammy a lot," Farron said. Faye said, "Yeah, I could tell that most of the crowd tonight came for Sammy's sake too. That's why they were so angry when she refused to perform." "It should be fine now. I'll be heading back then," Wilbur said. Faye nodded. "Aren't you going to watch the show?" "What's there to watch? Wilbur turned to leave. Farron waved at Faye as the two men made their way back home to drink. They were just about to start having fun when they were cut off. Faye watched them leave and let out a long sigh. For some reason, whenever something happened, Wilbur would be the first person she thought of. It felt like anything could be resolved as long as Wilbur was around. Faye did not know when she began to rely on him so much. After letting out another long sigh, Faye went back to work. Barry got into his stretch limousine after he left the stadium, taking a furious swig of whiskey before hurling the glass on the floor and shattering it. "How fucking dare you, Sammy Chandon? I'll teach you a lesson real soon. We're going back to Toneville." Chapter 279. The chauffeur started driving Barry back to Toneville. Farron and Wilbur returned to Sea Lake Island, continuing their drinking session. One whole bottle later, Farron's face was flushed as he said, "Dude, something fun will happen in Toneville real soon. Wanna go?" "What's so fun about Toneville?" Wilbur popped a nugget into his mouth. Farron smirked. "I remember you said that you were looking for antiques that would last forever, didn't you?" "Yes, I did." Farron leaned closer into Wilbur's ear. "There's going to be an underground auction in Toneville in 2 days. I was told it's going to be good." "How good could stuff at an auction be?" Wilbur was unimpressed. Farron said, "You can't be too sure about that. Who knows? You might even find some things that even the National Museum doesn't know about." "Oh, really?" Wilbur asked. Farron nodded. "Yup." Wilbur fell silent for a while before saying, "It's illegal. Aren't you going to do anything about it?" "What can I do, man?" Farron shrugged. "It's all organized under a legal front. We wouldn't be able to get anything even if we launched an investigation. Besides, anyone who can hold an auction like this would probably be someone with significant influence in the system. Surely you know that better than me." Wilbur chuckled. "Yes. Not everything was as easy to control as it seemed." "Well, I don't mind taking a trip if it really is as good as you make it out to be," Wilbur said. Farron smiled. "I'll give you Ted Dominic's contact. Call him in tonight and he'll take you there." "I need to call someone for this?" Wilbur asked. "Of course. An illegal auction like this isn't open to just anyone. Ted's a pretty well-known broker around these parts, specializing in getting people access to events like this. He's got a pretty impressive social network." "All right, then. I'll take a trip there. I just might find something useful." Wilbur was on the lookout for a contribution to get Faye a marrow cleansing pill. Despite finding something worth contributing not being guaranteed, it was still worth trying his luck. Besides, Farron and Elsa were both cultivators now. Faye was the only one left, and it was honestly a little unfair. The two men drank until late in the night, chatting about the auction. Finally, Faye returned home looking rather tired. She sighed at the sight of the two tipsy men. "You sure look like you're having fun. I'm about to pass out from the exhaustion." "Is everything all right?" Wilbur asked. Faye sat down, pouring herself a glass. She took a sip, then let out a long sigh before saying, "Everything ended perfectly. I was even going to ask Sammy to lunch tomorrow so we could all get together, but she had to leave right after to catch her next performance." "I can't believe these washed-up celebrities are still busy," Farron chuckled. Wilbur asked, "Did she used to be really big?" "Yeah, bro. Sammy blew up internationally 5 years ago with just one song, but she's been dropping in popularity ever since for some reason. She's still got a lot of fans, though," Farron said. Wilbur nodded. Faye finished her drink and said, "I'm spent. I'm going to bed. You two should get some rest too." "Right. I'm going to do just that. Good night," Farron said. Faye and Farron left, so Wilbur went to bed as well. The next afternoon, Wilbur woke up and packed a small travel bag. Seeing as Farron had still not sent him Ted's number, Wilbur headed to Farron's room. Farron was snoring loudly on the living room floor. It was clear that he had a little too much to drink the previous night. Wilbur huffed, kicking Farron's bottom. "Wake the fuck up. Do you know what time it is?" Farron rubbed his bottom as he opened his eyes blearily. He glanced at his watch and seemed to sober up. "Forget it. I'm skipping work today." Farron lay back down, prepared to go right back to sleep. Wilbur glared at him, aiming another kick at his bottom. "Are you serious? Do you remember what you said to me last night?" "What is it, brah?" Farron groaned in frustration. Wilbur's expression darkened. "The auction. Ted Dominic. You were supposed to send me his number. Do you remember now? Farron furrowed his brows before smacking himself on the forehead. Oh my fucking god. I blacked out. He whipped out his phone at once and sent a number to Wilbur. Don't mention me once you're there, bro. Of course. You're Mr. Campbell, aren't you? Exclusive man. Wilbur turned to leave after that. Farron chuckled awkwardly, climbing onto the couch and falling back to sleep. Wilbur got into his car and drove over to Toneville at once. Toneville was a second-class city in Cardin Province, which was around a 5-hour drive from Seachertown. It was a little past 3 in the afternoon when Wilbur arrived. He took out his phone and booked himself a room at one of the top hotels around him, then drove over there. The Starry Hotel, Wilbur muttered as he read the sign on the building. He then went inside to get his keycard to his room. It was a luxuriously decorated 5-star hotel, and the cost for a night there was not cheap.